hopefully we can come up with postage.
Yeah.
Got me? Okay. Now we're bargaining. So why don't I suggest this? Why don't we come together as an organization, as a group, and in order to fight for the resources that we need, instead of having a lot of letters about fee increases, why don't we put together letters, personal stories like the one we heard over here? Why don't we put together stories about what the impact of the loss of support, the 5 years and 6 years it's taking you to get a degree, the numbers of courses that you can't get into, the new faculty that you can't take classes with. Why don't we get together on that message, and why don't we take that together to Sacramento, or down on Friday afternoons to the local offices, or to do what we have, to go in and visit with the editorial boards of the local newspapers and the local media. Why don't we work on increasing the support for higher education, not decreasing the support for higher education?
Yes, we just said that. Help us! Actually help!
Take the bus with us to Sacramento.
Yeah.
Don't break up the occupation.
I agree.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
As we know, after years of lobbying,
after years of lobbying,
after years of letter writing,
after years of letter writing,
after years of pressuring,
Government officials.
thousands of students here at SF State went on strike in 1968 and were responsible for the creation of the College of Ethnic Studies, the EOP program, the Women and Gender Studies
program.
And they went on strike for over 5 months, in which they faced brutal police attacks and subsequent state repression. Mr. Corrigan, as you are asking us to leave our campus and go lobby and write letters and pressure politicians, will you publicly denounce the 1968 SF strike? Because it did not follow your logic of acceptable political action.
No, I'm not going to denounce the strike of 1968. It was the most important thing that's happened, not just simply in California education, but this nation's education. It wasn't simply the creation of a college of ethnic studies. It was a series of things. People had an agenda. They knew what they wanted to do. You know, want to know something? We have like about 65% of the students on this campus now come from underrepresented populations. Of the last 1,000 faculty members that we have hired over the last 20 plus years, something like 73% of them have been women and people of color. We have created a new kind of university here because there was leadership, because there was an agenda. People knew what they had to accomplish. What's going on with the occupation, I think, is one of the most extraordinary things that's happened again in this nation since our strike of 1968. You've got an organization developing, you've got a voice developing. Now you need an agenda, and there needs to be a higher education agenda. And the higher education agenda has to deal with access, and it has to deal with monetary support. It has to deal with changes in the curriculum that reflect more what's going on in a place like this. It's not just simply focusing on the narrow issue of fees. It's the larger That's why those people are out there. And they were out there. And yes, the police on horseback rode across this campus. And yes, they hit them with clubs. And yes, people went to jail. And people's lives were ruined. But out of the strike came one of the most dynamic movements in American higher education. You are part now of the occupation movement. You have the responsibility to bring to that group, these groups, that organization, the need to address the issues that still must be addressed in public higher education. That's the obligation that I think you need, and that will not lead to a denunciation of the strike of '68, which is something that I support all the time.
So if you were to start a strike, would you get mad? You have those police people.
So I hear you continually bringing up the Republican Party as some kind of target. But can anyone name our current governor of the state? A Democrat. A Democrat is proposing these billions of dollars in cuts. Obama and the Super Committee as well have also been working to cut Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and public services of all kinds, especially for students. We're talking about the death of Pell Grants within 10 years. And you are asking us to use the channels that have already been established with lobbying. Now, the strike in '68 was effective, but not because of lobbying, because of the fact that it was a strike.
Yes.
That when students use their power, that they hold locally on their own campuses, in their own communities, when we organize, that is what gets things done. The simple fact, the fact that we have a weekend in this country, that we have an 8-hour day, that there was an end to child labor, was because of strikes.
Yeah.
We have won everything. Working people and poor and people of color have won everything throughout history because of strikes. Because they took real action. So the first question I have is, vote for who?
Yeah.
They seem to be the same thing.
Yeah.
Two-headed snake. You want to put it that way. And now my second question to you is, if an agenda were presented to you, if a program was presented to you about the student movement, would you sign it? Because I have one here in my hand from the Berkeley General Assembly last week, the largest General Assembly in American history that was held. 5,000 people voted upon it, and it calls upon the state government, the UC regents, the CSU trustees, and all education administrators to support the following. Stop cuts to public education. Reverse the fee hikes, layoffs, and cuts in all levels of public education to at least their 2009 levels. Refund education and public services by taxing the rich and the corporations.
Hell yeah.
Something the Republicans and the Democrats have both left off the bill entirely. Fully implement affirmative action to stop the resegregation of public education. Overturn Prop 209. Respect free speech and free assembly. No use of force against protesters on school strikes. Respect free speech and free assembly. No use of force for protesters. I read all. If, and a note at the end, if you fail to issue such a statement and if you fail to take concrete actions in this direction, then Berkeley, at least the college of Berkeley, will begin a wave of actions, up to and including striking, which has been very effective in the past. Beginning February 1st, 2012. Will you sign this?
No.
Why not? Why?
How hard is it to sign a
Things that I
letter?
do as a private citizen are things that I do as
Louder,
there are
please.
things that you talk Prop 209.
Louder.
It's affirmative action for this school.
Is there anybody here from Becca?
Somebody hold the mic for him.
All right. Hey, look. Prop 209. You're talking about the repeal of Prop 209. You know, I I was out there along with a few other people, a few other presidents, working against Prop 9. Affirmative action, we have supported affirmative action. We don't have to come back to having affirmative action on this campus. I have in fact, I have written and I've given speeches and I've been on the radio, I've been, etc., talking about both the Democratic governor and the Republicans. But I'm telling you that our present governor is between a rock and a hard place. He cannot get the votes that he needs. You've got a party that has unilaterally just decided there will be no movement on this. You've got to find a way of breaking that logjam. And yes, I say to you as well that this governor needs to hear more from you about the importance of public higher education, as he does hear from us. Okay? But you've got to get out there and make this. Hey, look, all right? One of the things that's important about the occupation is that people are out there invisible. You know, you stream me not aside. The people who leave the gated communities in their limousines and go to work in buildings that have guards in the front of them and fly their private planes to Washington, to lobby, etc. They don't care about this at all. You're not making any impression on them. This is just being contained here. It's being contained here. What's happened through the occupation movement is that people have found they've got to pay attention. And they're paying attention. This is a very important movement that's going on. Again, I'm repeating myself. Make higher education, the importance of higher education, affordable higher education, accessible higher education, make that part of the mandate that the occupation movement will bring to the U.S. society, and then we can have the kind of change that we need in this nation.